access. We would like to have your input. Who's ever been asked their input about what's going to happen here? Okay, but we voted for these people to be in. Okay, I'm going to bring my political attitude in here in a second. We've voted these people in for other reasons. But in the meantime, you've got, and I come from Illinois, we've got Mr. old Bobby Rush, who really gets my goat sometimes. He puts all these names on these. You know why? It's all the political action committees, it's all the money that's tied into it. Okay. Since, and I'm not going to, again, it's a political thing, but since 2000, 3 things that have happened. Pharmaceuticals, petroleum, telecommunication. The 3 biggest major monopolies and winners for what reason? Who are the 3 biggest contributors in 2000 for the Bush campaign? I didn't mention his name, but their current administration is. Petroleum's doing what in billions of dollars and flooding in your face? Government doing anything about it? No. Telecommunications. There's no more competition. We're losing it. That's going right back to where? The big 3. And pharmaceuticals. So you look at those 3 things and what's kind of going on. It's really going to be us consumers to finally say something about it. Yeah, you can vote. You can vote them out. By the time it happens, it happens.
Well, vote with your feet?
You can vote with your feet, but you can also talk to them now. You can go to congress.org, look up your senator, House representative, state and federal, and tell them what you don't like. 3 things that happen on the Hill. It takes 7 individual people to get someone's attention. It does not take a lot, believe me. 7 individual people with the same problem will get the aid. Now, your senator and congressman don't do anything other than what's the committee that they're on. If there are specific committees like the House Commerce Committee or House Means and Ways, they only have to worry about zoning on that. But they got to vote on all those other bills. Do you think they're smart enough to understand all of that stuff? Heck no. They got all their aid. So in each office, there's an aid for telecommunication, one for medicine, one for whatever. So you want to get a hold of those people and what's kind of going on. If you have a problem with your phone system, the hot seat right now is telecommunications and internet, and I'll get right back to the network neutrality. We're going to be screwed here in roughly about 60 days. If SBC gets a hold of Bell South, and we're supposed to know something within the next 60 days, some of the things that I know about is because of what we do with the WBA out of Washington. We get to learn what's happening, going on in there. If they let this merger go through, we're going to have hard times. We're going to be right back to 84 again. And they're going to be able to control a lot of things that we do with the internet. You know, it's supposed to be free. We're supposed to be able to do what we want with it. We're paying for the service. Now, here's the problem. If you like Google, if you like Amazon, if you like any of the major so-called content providers, you're paying for the service for your cable or your what? DSL, whatever the case may be. You're paying for that bandwidth. So is Google, and me, a website owner. I have somewhere about 35 or 40 somewhere websites out there. I lose count. But I provide services to people. They come to my website, and they'll pull files down and what have you. Well, what's going to happen to Googles and the Amazons and whatever, AT&T, Verizon, and Bell South, and Arbach to go, you know what? We want a piece of that action now again.
Well, Ed Whittaker's gone as far as to call the people, his consumers, the people that are paying Ed Whittaker's salary, and Ed Whittaker is the CEO of AT&T at this point, has gone as far to call you, the consumers, parasites.
Parasites.
You are parasites on his network. It's his network. It's not, you didn't build it. Okay? Between the years of 1998 and 2004, you know, ISPs were responsible for 60% of AT&T's build out. Okay? 60%. You guys wouldn't have the resources that you have at your disposal if ISPs hadn't gotten together and actually delivered that. And now you're parasites because you're on their network and you're using it and you're not paying him for every bit that you send across it.
Right. And Yahoo and Google are the freeloaders. Okay? So it's not like...
Wait. Yeah. Despite the fact that Yahoo and Google have gone to great lengths to place caches of their information at strategic points in the internet to reduce the total bandwidth. Like, for example, with Cox Cable as a cable provider. Now, I don't like any particular large-scale provider, but Cox and Google have gotten together, and Google has a significant amount of resources that are actually located on Cox's network that are mirrors of its data, so that it can be more friendly. Google searches on these networks can be more friendly to the general internet as a whole. I mean, you don't want 8 million subscribers out there all going to the same website. If you can basically load all that content into their data center and keep it fresh, it's the same thing as caching. So again, AT&T and the big companies here are going to basically try to charge you to access other people's content.
Well, that's the problem is, though, you got Yahoos and the Googles and so forth. Everybody thinks they get connectivity for free. Well, that's what the Whitakers of the world are trying to make the consumers think. They pay for their bandwidth, whether it's a T1 to OC92, whatever the case may be, over hundreds and hundreds of millions of miles worth of copper and fiber that's out there. They're paying for that transport. But now what they're trying to do is say, oh, we want a piece of the action, okay? Especially in Ameritech land and where I grew up in Illinois and Ohio here and things of that nature, you got Project Lightspeed, okay? When SBC took over Ameritech, in Illinois, they had promised they were going to bring out the fiber and get the equipment and things of that nature. What they did, basically, what SBC did was lie to the Congress and lie to the FCC. They went out to Lucent and leased hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars worth of equipment, put them in the COs, had the auditors come out and look and say, yep, looks like you guys are going to build it. We're going to give you your what? We're going to give you your merger. Within 30 days after our merger, Lucent and UPS and things of that nature were pulling that equipment out of the COs. I live 2.5 miles away from one in Geneva, Illinois. I was going past one day and saw not one or two, but 15 55-foot trailers lined up, pulling off boxes and freshly, still got the wrapper on it from Lucent. So I called my buddy who was a lab rat for Lucent, started with Bell Labs, actually was the CTO of my company, and said, what are you guys doing with all this equipment? He goes, well, that's the stuff we leased. We don't need it anymore now that we got the merger.
And this, by the way, this stuff is just not stuff that we're saying. Mm-hmm. You can go out on net and find it. There's a guy that we invited that couldn't make it. What the hell's his name? David something or other.
Eisenberg?
No, not Eisenberg. It's the other guy that always complains that he doesn't make enough money to go anywhere. But he's got an ebook out there called the $20 billion.
Oh, Bruce Kushnick.
Bruce Kushnick.
Bruce Kushnick. And he's the gentleman is really interesting. He's an ex-Bellhead, did a lot of consulting for them and so forth like that. He's basically started doing auditing of phone bills, okay? And what I think is kind of funny, when I look at about 26% of my cell phone bill is in taxes and federal regulations, and where half of that is not even mandated by the government, or even they're supposed to pay it. It's just one of those things they just kind of add on. But if you've got 26 million customers, for example, and you add a nickel, do you see a nickel on your phone bill because it regulates every month? If you're paying by the minute or a flat rate, you don't see a nickel. 26 million people times a nickel, I am not that good in math, but I know that's a hell of a lot of money. Okay?
Well,
all right, so you kind of look at what we've been talking about. You're hearing about universal service fees. Anybody understand what universal service fund is supposed to do besides make CLEX a lot of money? Oh, there's actually a couple.
That's $1.3 million a month, by the way.
Yeah, that's okay.
It's unbelievable, but one of that USF
Universal, service fund, right?
Well, what that is basically a fund that's supposed to be for the ILECs to pay for rural access.
Right, like
access
Poughkeepsie, Iowa.
Right, places that are far out, not the cities. If you're in the suburbs or you're somewhere outside of the suburbs, you don't get subpar copper or subpar telephone service because you're way out in the boondocks.
Right.
So they're supposed to get that's money set aside that they're supposed to collect from your bill that you get every day.
And it's on long distance. It's really just on your long distance interstate type of phone bill, so it really doesn't add up to a lot, but it does for millions and millions of people. But the problem is, it's a system that's broken. I could probably go look it up on the internet again, whatever, but about a year and a half ago, there was the RICO Act was established on a CLEC in Kansas that he was making more money on USF fees than he was selling phones. He had 4,000 lines, was making $1,400 a month just on the service fees. Your fees are based on how hard it is for you to supply local phone services to everybody in that area. So we've got a very broken system, and we've got to figure out as consumers how to get it back from them. Yes?
I live in a rather prominent suburb of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and there are people just 2 doors down that just cannot get DSL. And is there any way that us as consumers just can call them on this ISF because they're just completely dropping the ball.
But see, that's not really, it's not supposed to be for that. It's supposed to be for more for rural to help the high build out. You know, if you got a county where you got thousands of, you only got 60 or 50 homes, okay? You're not bunched up, and it's really just the cost of build out. Plus, it was supposed to help for schools and libraries and whatever. When it comes to that particular problem right there, if it's in a Verizon territory, I can guarantee it's because the local plant has now switched over from copper to fiber, and what the Bells have done is actually held us hostage as consumers, and they basically went, and it's in the paper, they basically went to Congress and said, listen, get rid of these ISPs, or we're not going to bring out broadband, because of the administration said everybody's supposed to have broadband by 2007. Well, we know that was just something to get votes, and it was just a big thing to use in 2000, because that was the real high. That was when dial-up was starting to do a little bit of a peaking and things of that nature, and come down. So that was just a a catchphrase at the time. Everybody's going to have broadband by 2007. Don't think so. It's not going to happen.
Well, I know that's bull because there is another rural county that's right next to us, and I used to have people come to me all the time and say, why can't I get DSL? Why can't I get this? And I called up a buddy of mine that worked in the county recorder's office, and I said, hey, when was the last time a bill permit was issued by the telco, to actually string, wire on the poles? 1956.
They're not mandated to use the money. But let's put it this way. Let me tell you something.
It's not even like they've had any recent bill permits.
They don't have to. There's nothing in the law. There's nothing in the law. They get the money.
And they hold on to it.
They hold on to it.
And they make interest on it.
Actually, they actually use that money for internal operations.
Well, yeah, for GSA, but that's not the point. You're absolutely right. We can come up. We did that in Wisconsin. We did it in rural Iowa. We did it in rural Illinois. Went right to the local ILECs and things of that nature. Frontier citizens. Big pain in the ass when it comes to that. They get millions of dollars a year to bring to upgrade rural communities. Okay, we've got pictures and things of that nature where they've got, they're taking tape and putting things together and things of that nature, but they get hundreds of millions of dollars to replace that line. Okay, we've seen them take old line. If they have to replace a copper line, this was in Illinois and Iowa.
On the pair swapping game.
Well, they'll go to another line and take some off. They'll take whatever they got off the truck to patch it in and things of that nature. Instead of taking the millions of dollars that they were given as far as the general fund to string a new line to make it work.
Verizon techs tell me that. They said they fully admitted to me in rural areas, they will go and swap a pair. Customer B on one side of the street, bitches, moans, and complains they're getting static.
Yeah.
Guess what? They're not going to replace that whole string of cable. They get up on the pole, they flip the pair. Customer B on the exact opposite side of the street.
Now it's got a problem.
Right.
Well, see, let me tell you, that's job security. See, I'm sorry, but to tell you, but that's job security. That's job security for the tech. Okay, it was easier to do that. So consumers, the biggest thing I think we're talking about as far as what we're here talking about today is the consumers have really got to start saying something. And then most of us has got the ability to get on the net. Let's put it this way, do not mail anything because of 9/11. It takes 7 to 8 weeks to get mail. Internet, email, fax. They will get the attention of fax. It takes 7 people to get the aide's attention to get on, hey, something's wrong list. Anything more than that makes a big difference. So we want to talk about how we can help us as consumers. We're all consumers here too, not just business people. We're consumers. Yes?
When you get stuck in one of those games, because I've actually been in it. I spent to get DSL working. I didn't even have phone service for a while. It was even usable. I spent literally 150 plus hours on the phone. I had a log of all of it on the phone with SBC. And I lived in the major metropolitan area, in the Indianapolis metro area, actually in city limits. And it took that long talking to these people. And the previous owner had phone service that worked. And when I moved in, they'd swap the pair out, and there wasn't a dial tone on the pair that ran into my building all of a sudden. What do you do? How do you get around that without getting caught in that bureaucracy? Because I know I'm not the only one. We've got 2 people sitting here in just this room.
If you think about the percentage of people having problems just sitting in this room, multiply that by millions of people out there, you know what? And we're not saying anything about it.
Yeah. That's the thing. You spent 150 hours on the phone with SBC and eventually maybe got working service. If you would have taken 15 minutes and had you and your friends, 5 other friends, write something to your congressman and the PUCO, or where if you're from Ohio, the PUCO,
Yeah.
whatever your utilities commission, you gotta speak up. I log